So over the years, there's been one consistent comment on the channel. It's not on every video, but every once in a while, this consistent thing will come up that says you need to do this to fix your property. And today we're gonna do that. Now, going back in time, we put in all the landscaping at this house. We wanted something that looked decent, but we didn't want to spend a fortune on it. Of course, when we just moved and this was our first time home, we didn't have a lot of extra cash to put towards things, but we did want a nice landscape that at least kind of put a border in, and we did all of that stuff and learned a lot from doing that too. So over the years, many people have commented on the landscape and said, well, your lawn looks really great, but it'd be a lot nicer if your landscape looked great. So we understand why people would say that, but over the years we knew that this wasn't going to be our forever home. And we had to have that balance of how can we make things look decent without spending a fortune on it that we're not going to enjoy long term. But now we have my shed done, and last fall we did some landscaping around that. We have our larger deck done, and we did some landscaping around that and changed kind of the landscape that was out there. And today we're going to be putting in some different plants and hopefully transforming this area from something that looks pretty boring right at the moment to something with a lot of color and a lot of flair. So the first thing that I did last year was just cut an edge, basically. It's pretty easy to do by hand with one of these kind of edging tools that you can buy. That's what I've used over the years to kind of cut my edges in on the beds. Today they need to be redone so that I'm gonna put a nice clean edge into here. We kind of are going with the natural look this time, just to see how that works out. So far it's been pretty good. The other thing that we did was we put in some ornamental grasses last year so that they'd already be ready to start maturing this season. I love ornamental grasses, and my wife, she's not so much on board with that. I would have them everywhere. She likes them, but she likes to add some other plants in there and not just have grass everywhere, because I got grass in the lawn, grass in the beds. It's a theme, I get it. But so today I'm gonna re-edge all of this stuff, show you kind of how that happens, and then we're going to add a bunch of different plants in here, try to figure out how to add some dimension to the landscape, some taller plants, some lower plants, and add a lot more color. All right, so we're gonna separate all the types of flowers that we have. These are pretty much all annuals, correct?
Yes, everything that we have here is an annual.
So we're going to figure out what types we have, and then also try to figure out the sizes so that we don't put something tall on the front of the bed and then have something short in behind it.
Some of them too are full sun, and we have to look at sun versus shade because we get more afternoon sun in the back. So our full sun plants will go out in the back, and then
some of the ones that have a little more shade tolerance would come out to the front section. So there's 4 plants in each one of these.
Correct, yes. The celosia.
These are all full sun then?
Correct. And then the gazanias, which are those 3.
So today I'm going to try using the Pro Plugger. I bought this last year, I think, and I've not used it a ton, but I've only mainly used it to move a few plugs of the lawn around. But today we're going to try using it to plant these annuals. So I think we need about a 2-inch depth, which should be one of these rings that we need to put on here. So you have a tape measure laid out, and we're going to try to roughly keep things somewhat in check.
Recommended spacing, which I think is just a recommendation, 10 to 12 inches apart. I'd like to stay on the closer side. We could probably even go closer than 10 inches.
How tall do those get?
12 to 24. So we'll
and those are
3.5 to 4 feet.
Okay, so the grass will be like these grasses get tall.
Right, and so will these.
So those will be like in between.
Right, and so we'll have these there and there, and then we can put these a little closer together. This way, that water doesn't all run down away from me. So these roots have a pretty tight weave, so to make sure that they kind of are able to spread out into the soil and really establish the plant, all I'm going to do is just break these apart a little bit and kind of encourage them to venture out instead of just sit in their little clump. I'm not breaking the roots If you do break a few, it's fine. You don't want to stress the plant more than you have to. But I just want to give it a little bit of air and movement so that the water can penetrate and the roots will go out.
So while Kelsey is working on planting some of those, I've been working on redoing the edge, which is pretty easy with this tool. Essentially, I'm not going to be taking off much, but I'd like to just make this really clean. And all you have to do is just press down, and then these will all come out of here. I know it's tough to cut through some grass. Definitely, if there's anyone who understands that, that would be someone like me. But the edge that you get off of here is just so nice. You can come in and trim this. And it's a really super easy tool to use. Fiona. We spent the rest of the afternoon planting and enjoying the sunshine. I'm pretty sure the dogs enjoyed it too. Fiona loves the sun even though she gets hot right away, while Joey finds the shade when he needs it. But he loves to be exactly where we are at all times. Sometimes a project like this isn't just about a landscape. It's also about family time soaking in the beautiful weather.
So not only are we planting flowers today, but I finally get to put my transplants into the garden as well. And it feels a little bit late to be doing that. Not necessarily for the pepper and tomato plants. I just put in my cold season crops, onions and peas and things like that. I didn't really have a choice this year. Thanks to the spring winds, it finished off what the derecho started last year, and I lost my shed. So I knew that we'd have a project going in with a lot of traffic in and out of the garden, putting in this new shed behind me, which is very much my shed because, as you can see, I'm about the only one who can fit through the doorway. But the other thing that we wanted to do was try a raised bed in the middle of the garden. And I'm trying this because I love growing carrots, but we have very clay soil here. And so cleaning them after the end of the season is a nightmare because they get real stumpy, or you can see where the root starts to grow down and it hits something it can't go through and it kind of jetties off. And so cleaning them, it just results in a lot of waste. So this was an experiment I wanted to do this year to get carrots in. I have 16 inches of really nice compost topsoil mix that we got that should be very loose and should be very easy for them to grow in. So we'll see at the end of the year what those end up looking like. I did have a little extra topsoil and compost mix, so I added that as one of the layers to my lasagna garden. This year I have a layer of cardboard, topped with a layer of clippings, topped with some newspaper, topped with compost. And so if you get a sense of the garden, you'll see where it looks like everything is raised. Eventually that will all settle in, but I did add about 3 inches worth of material around the perimeter of the garden this year too, leaving some walkways in between. We're gonna see what happens to the onions, to my cold weather crops, spinach and lettuce. It may be a very short season for them. I don't really want to plant them as late as we did, but we had temperatures in the 20s and 30s all the way through April. I don't think that they really would have done well anyway had I planted them earlier. So now that our temperatures look like they're really not gonna fall far into the 40s, maybe stay in the 50s at nights for the next, well, for the foreseeable future, the rest of the garden is going in the next few days. So we've got some carrot seeds and green beans. I'll be transplanting my peppers and tomatoes. I tried celery this year, so that'll be kind of a fun little experiment to try as well. And I've got some tomato plants going in too. We'll see how everything does this year. Hopefully we get some good rain and hopefully the weather will allow us to actually go forward, since it's been what stopped us so far this season.
So we just have almost all the beds full now, and it's going to take a few weeks for everything to obviously grow in. We're going to be doing some fertilizer applications as well, which we'll show you, and need to keep everything watered, which is going to be the challenge on figuring out how to do that. But I think the color difference and filling in everything in between these grasses is going to look fantastic hopefully the backyard here, I can start to mature that a little bit more throughout the season, and everything will match up and look beautiful back here. So I'm looking forward to that. Hope you guys enjoyed this video today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.